Yeah, yeah.
Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Two Makes Turn. We are back once again with another episode for y'all. My name is Will. The man on my right is Steven, or my left is Steven. It's been a while, I'm sorry. But you probably don't need me to spell names because you see your names at the bottom now.
But we can spell them out for you anyway. That's W-I-L-L, and I am S-T-E-P-H-E-N.
Yeah, so for all y'all who thought it was a V, you're sorely mistaken. It's a PH.
Yeah, well, I mean, it does say it, like, you know, right there. Just right there. So
I'm talking about, like, before. I'm talking about before we had our names spelled out. When I'm introducing you as Steven, I wonder how many people, like, thought in their mind Steven as in S-T-E-V-E-N.
I mean, to be fair, I do usually have to clarify, like, oh yeah, it's spelled with a PH, not a V. Most people don't, like, just
like, I've known you.
That.
Yeah, like, what's funny is I've known you for a long time, so it doesn't even occur to me. But, like, when having to, like, stop and think about it, I have to be like, yeah, that is a little weird. PH. Like,
man, that guy's name is spelled wrong. His parents didn't do a good job naming him.
That reminds me of someone, actually. It reminds me of a guy named Isaiah. And the way his name is spelled, it's spelled with a Z instead of an S. Before, like, as the second letter. So instead of Isaiah being like I-S-A-I-A-H, it's I-Z.
I wonder how often he gets called, like, Izzy Isaiah or something.
And, like, even though he's like, he very adamantly always has to correct me, I always kind of tease him, be like, hey, what's up, Isaiah, with an S? That's how I'm always in.
The proper way to spell the name.
Alright, but, yeah.
Spelling your name wrong.
But yeah, welcome to the podcast, everybody. If you haven't seen any of our previous episodes, and this is your introduction to us, welcome. We make jokes, we talk about things, and we misspell names.
We make jokes, and sometimes they're even good.
Yeah. Yeah, the phrase goes, I deliver topics, and Steven will respond to them. He may or may not know what I'm talking about. This episode particularly, I gave him homework. So, Steven, let me use this opportunity to ask you now. Did you do homework?
I mean, I did. It wasn't really very much homework. For context, for the viewers, I'll just go ahead and tell the viewers what homework you gave me.
Well, don't tell them exactly what it was. I'm trying to let it be a surprise.
Well, he sent me a song to listen to, so there you go.
It's a song. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but first we got some other things to I want to talk about first. So, as of recording this right now, there's one more NFL game to be played before the season is over.
Atlanta Falcons suck.
You done? Alright.
But I mean, like, they do, though, right? In your own words.
I mean, okay, look, let's talk about the Super Bowl, and then I can complain about my own team first.
I didn't even see the Super Bowl. Okay, it's not even just that I didn't see the Super Bowl. I didn't even know the Super Bowl happened. That's how little
that's the funny thing. That's the funny thing. It didn't. We're still waiting on it to happen.
Oh, was it, like, supposed to have happened already, or?
Maybe if you let me fucking finish talking!
Okay, fine. Go on.
Sorry, I didn't mean to yell at you. I'm sure my neighbors are mad at me right now for yelling. I'm always self-conscious about that. Try not to alert anyone. I'm trying not to be a nuisance or anything.
Maybe the real neighbors were the friends we made along the way.
Okay, but seriously, the Super Bowl that is going to be happening next Saturday. Not this Saturday, but the next Saturday on the 8th, I believe. Is going to be a matchup between the Eagles and the Chiefs.
Naturally, it would be the Chiefs.
Of course, it's the Chiefs. Yeah,
I mean, they have Taylor Swift, so, like, you know, of course they're gonna win. I wonder how heavy the betting will be on the Chiefs winning as well. Just because, like, NFL scripted and that kind of joke that I've heard about.
Right. We'll get into that. So the Chiefs and Eagles. This is actually a matchup that happened 2 Super Bowls ago. So this is essentially a rematch between them. Like the Eagles are coming back and are like, all right, I got it this time. Because 2 years ago, the Eagles and Chiefs, when they faced off, the Eagles were very close to winning, but then in the end, like near the end, there was a controversial call, a referee call that kind of screwed over the Eagles, and it resulted in the Chiefs being able to make a score to gain the lead, and there was no time left for the Eagles to make a play.
Yeah, because as we all know,
I think the call, if I remember correctly, I didn't do research on this to refresh my memory, but I believe it was a false holding call that was called on the Eagles defender, which, if you don't know, holding calls are 10-yard penalties when they're an offensive or defensive call. Because this is a defensive call, and the Chiefs were already like getting closer and closer to the red zone. It basically put them in the red zone for them to be able to make a score.
And for those of you who don't know, what holding means, the penalty is basically something that the refs call whenever they need to put a penalty on a team, but they don't have anything to actually. They like the team didn't actually do anything, but they want to just give them a penalty anyway because so they just say,
let's not generalize.
Oh,
hold on. Let's not generalize and say that's 100% a bullshit call. Like, it can be, but usually it happens when there's suspicions of someone holding on to a player and not letting go, and like sometimes like yanking someone or something that could also be considered holding. But the issue with this call is that it relies on a referee's, like, from their vantage point, if it looks like they're holding on, but they really didn't, that flag will often still be enforced. And for whatever reason, there's no way in the NFL to like reverse penalties that are like blatantly false. There's still not a system in place to like actually like review calls if they turn out to be blatantly wrong just based on video evidence. And so
we do have that in college football. I guess that's one of the ways the NFL differs from college.
So that's one of the main reasons that incident in the last Eagles and Chiefs game is one of the things that gives the Chiefs a very bad reputation when it comes to having the referees be on their side, essentially. So, and there's been other stuff that's happened in this season, particularly, that has also led people to question the legitimacy of the refereeing. And while I'm still not to this day sure if it's 100% true that the referees are like paid off by the Chiefs or wherever. I do believe there is a bias that just exists. I do believe, because like this, at the very least, even if it's not a bias towards the Chiefs in particular, it just hasn't been good. Like, it just has not been consistent refereeing that has been happening, which is, I think, what most people are upset about. Just the fact that games could be decided based on referees' mess up, and they're not going back to fix it in the moment. They're just like, all right, well, we'll just roll with it.
Yeah, I don't even like. I'm so don't pay attention to the NFL that I didn't even know when the Super Bowl was, and even I have seen the memes of like, oh, the refs like they follow a script and they make calls based on who they have money on or whatever,
or who's paying them the most. Yeah. And the other thing about this Super Bowl is that a lot of people just don't want to see this matchup. Not only because we've seen it before, and here's the thing about that too. The previous Super Bowl that happened last year, the Chiefs and the 49ers, was also a rematch from a few years ago as well. So it's just like we just want more variety in what teams are actually coming to the Super Bowl, right? And so,
Sure, I don't know.
and so, as of right now, the Chiefs, they have won the 2 previous Super Bowls, and now the goal for them is to essentially three-peat. They want a three-peat. They want to win this one so that they can say they've won 3 Super Bowls in a row, which is something that hasn't been done before. So, there's that.
Sorry, the Chiefs are the ones that want that, not the 49ers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well,
Or not
the 49ers...
the Eagle, whatever. Dude, I don't know the teams, okay?
Okay, well, I'm trying to just talk about this, you know. Like, I understand you may not... Again, for those watching, this is why I say he may or may not know what I'm talking about. And this is an example of him not knowing what I'm talking about.
No, this is just a topic that I can't really provide any quality commentary on because, you know, I don't really know anything about it, so...
Alright, well, in that case, I guess I'll wrap this up. I would like the Eagles to win, but if the Chiefs win... that's the other thing, too. A lot of people are just saying, like, I'm rooting for the Meteor to win. Because the thing about the Eagles is they're not a very well-liked team either. They have kind of a bad reputation among other fans. So a lot of people are just seeing this matchup and just like, I'm either rooting for the Meteor or I'm just going to put on the Puppy Bowl instead. Which is
Bowl. I actually did watch the Puppy Bowl 1 year.
It's basically an event for dogs that usually airs around the same time. And they call itself Puppy Bowl. And so whenever there's a bad matchup, whenever there's a bad Super Bowl matchup, a lot of people are just like, I'd rather watch the Puppy Bowl instead.
At a certain point, the NFL is going to start looking like the Puppy Bowl with how...
Okay. Alright. So, that's that. And also, as for the Falcons, you know what's funny? And I think I've talked this to you before about this, but the last time we recorded an episode, before our hiatus, that was back when we were right in the middle of the NFL season, and my team, the Falcons, we were at 6-3. We had a 6-3 record, 6 wins, 3 losses, which I was like, that's pretty good. We're doing pretty good. And then we ended up finishing the season 8-9. So
that's actually worse than that's worse than Auburn's record, which is saying something.
So yeah. I'm glad I didn't end up uploading that because that would have just been depressing to see that. Just like me being like, yes, my team is finally good, and then it just plummets.
I probably would have.
We got Kirko Chains to thank for that drop off because after we got to a 6-3 record, he just decided to stop being good. I legitimately.
We got 6 wins, that's good enough. I'm taking a break.
I think it was just because at this point, Kirk Cousins, he's just very old. So I think somewhere along the lines, he's just got some sort of. I wouldn't be surprised if he got some sort of old man like pain. And he didn't want to admit that he was having old man pain. It was like, nah, put me in, coach. I'm still good. And like, whenever he goes out, not only would it take him 3 business days to throw a football, but also he would end up throwing footballs to more defenders than he would our guys.
Sounds like that's something that sounds familiar.
Yeah, we know. Auburn fan.
I wouldn't really call myself an Auburn fan. I'm more of an Auburn student.
You're more of an Auburn observer.
Yes.
You're more of an Auburn witnesser.
No one really calls themselves an Auburn fan. That's just not really a term.
I know a lot of people who call themselves Auburn fans. Like my family, they're Auburn fans to a T.
I don't know. It's definitely not something to be proud of right now in this day and age, in this economy.
I don't know. There's hope, maybe potentially. I don't know
The
what's
only
going on
good
with
thing
the
that
Auburn
happened
football.
was we beat Texas A&M this year. That's the only good thing that happened. It was very, very funny. And also, I got to watch Alabama lose 3 times.
Anyways, so yeah, football. Steven is showing how much of a nerd he is by not being up to date with football.
Yeah, totally an absolute nerd. I just know everything there is to know about football.
Yeah, because we all know, as a true man, you want to be manly, man. You gotta know a lot about football, and you gotta be up to date with every single player.
Yep.
Yeah, nah. All right, so moving on from that, we got a couple topics here that are a little out of date. And what I mean by that is I could have talked about these before, like a couple weeks ago, but our hiatus only ended like a week or two ago, so there was that.
Yeah, we got to stop doing these. This is the second time we've rebranded and like the 5th time we've been on a hiatus.
Yeah, honestly, but so the first topic, and I'm pretty sure you'll know this first one that I'm about to bring up because there's no way you haven't heard of this. I'm talking about that 12-hour TikTok ban.
Oh yeah, I didn't know
It
how
was
long
when
it was.
TikTok was supposedly going under a ban, and then it didn't. And in that 12 hours that TikTok was banned, a lot of crazy things happened, to say the least.
I'll give you my side of the like what I know of the story first. I know that they were talking about banning TikTok, and then like they did at one point. Like I saw news, it's like, oh guys, TikTok is like banned. And then like a couple days later, all of these memes started popping up about like the TikTok ban, and it was like, just memes about like something lasting a really short period of time, and I was able to pick up from it. Oh, apparently it didn't last very long.
Right.
Yeah, but that's about it. I don't know, like, what.
As I've said, 12 hours is all it was.
Yeah, but I don't know
That
anything
ban
about like.
lasted 12 hours.
I don't know anything
in that time
about what like brought it back, or
I will get into that. Do not worry. I will get into that. It gets a little politically, but it's not that bad. There's
Guys,
something
we're
funny
gonna
about it
talk
that I do
about
want to talk about.
politics on the To Whom It May Concern podcast. Buckle up.
But yeah, the ban came about because the government were suspicious of TikTok, and basically the justification was, "Oh, TikTok is made by a Chinese company, so the Chinese government is spying on Americans with it," and that's more or less what they were believing, and that's why they wanted to get rid of TikTok. And
I have
this
my own
ban,
set of problems with that philosophy, but I won't get into that.
So they were running with that, and it was for years. It took years before they were able to like really come, like before we were able to get to this moment where it actually did temporarily get banned. But we'll get into that later. So TikTok, the main thing causing the delay of this ban was that they wanted to see if TikTok would be able to find someone to buy out the company, essentially, so that an American company to buy them out. And if you don't know, TikTok is worth like a bunch of billions. I think it's like $100 billion or something like that.
They're worth like a
remember.
bunch of money.
Yeah. And so for obvious reasons, they were not able to find a buyer for America. So so yeah, after I forget exactly what day it was that happened, but on one particular day in January, I know this happened before Inauguration Day. That's all I know. And I think Inauguration Day was like the 20th. And so TikTok gets banned. So for 12 hours, people can't use it. And let me tell you, the amount of people who were freaking out over the fact that they were no longer able to get their dopamine rush from their TikTok videos. It was honestly kind of hilarious. It was kind of hilarious and also kind of sad to see.
Sounds about right.
You want to know how bad it got?
I can.
There was one dude. There was one individual who freaked out so much about his TikTok being banned that he called the police.
Like they're gonna be able to do anything about it.
Exactly. Like this, there was just someone calling the police, like, "Hello, police! My TikTok's been banned. I don't know what to do." It was like a whole thing. And the other shocking thing that happened was someone tried to burn down a representative office because of the ban.
Wow.
And it's just so much more hilarious in hindsight because the TikTok, it just got unbanned. So you committed that arson for no reason. Like probably on his way to the jail cell, he heard about TikTok. So he saw someone on TikTok again, and he was just like,
"No, I can tell you exactly what happened with that. What happened with that was, so if he was delusional enough to, burn down a building, he was probably delusional enough to see TikTok getting unbanned and think that he did that."
No. Let me tell you. So So after 12 hours, the TikTok app ends up getting unbanned. And once it got unbanned, it ended up pushing out a notification on the app. Basically, what it said was, we would like to thank Trump for helping us reach an agreement for this app being brought back. So essentially, all this, what people are believing now is all of this talk, all of this commotion, and TikTok being banned and it being brought back, and people being so happy that it got brought back, was all just a PR stunt to make Trump look good. And the funny thing about that is, like, Trump was one of the ones who was, like, pushing for the TikTok ban a lot. Because he was always like, oh, China can't be trusted. China, they're always spying on us. And now all of a sudden he's like, I like TikTok. I think TikTok is good. So, and all the people who saw the message saying Trump brought back, they're like, yes, thank you, Trump. Essentially, that's what happened.
And it's
whether or not that publicity was a good or a bad thing, I will let y'all decide.
This is the reason why I don't involve myself with politics, because stuff like that, like, this is just look at this, okay? If you look at this from the non-political side, like, you can have whatever political opinion you want. I don't care.
Exactly.
But
yes.
If you look at this, like, through a non-political point of view and just look at it as, like, a normal person, this is, like, insanity.
Right.
It's just like, oh.
And like I said, I do always stress this about this show, about how I don't want us to become a political show. Like, never. Like, even talking about this topic in particular kind of pushed it a little bit for me, but I thought it was interesting enough to talk about. And, with Trump having taken office, he has done a lot of things. And again, whether or not they are good things or not, I will let y'all decide. My goal with this show is always have just been, we're just here. We're just going to make jokes. Wherever funny things happen, we comment on them.
Yeah.
And I think the TikTok ban was kind of funny. Not only to show how desperate a lot of people are for their short dopamine rushes for short videos, but also how they turned it into a PR thing to make Trump look good. Of just like, thank this man. Like, they could have replaced, like, imagine if they replaced that name with anybody who they wanted to give good press to.
Yeah.
Like they honestly could have, honestly.
They really could have. You're right.
So yeah, there's that. And throughout all of it, I'm proud to say I still do not use TikTok.
Neither do I. I am a YouTube Shorts user.
I'm shocked by how many people didn't just straight. That's the other funny thing about this that I didn't even bring up. The fact that there's this Chinese app called Red Note that basically operates the same as TikTok, but it's not. It wasn't made by the same company that made TikTok. And a lot of people were so desperate they ended up downloading that app and were starting to. They wanted to, and like the app itself was like in Mandarin or something, so like none of it was in English. So a lot of people were like trying to learn Mandarin in order to use the app because TikTok was no longer a viable option. And it was just so funny to see. And I think that might have been another legitimate reason why they brought TikTok back. Like they saw how many people were.
If we just ban this one app, they're just gonna go use this other one.
They're gonna use this other app that arguably is much worse. And the argument of like China spying on Americans. If a lot of Americans start going to this app, they'll. So I think they were like, okay, it's too much trouble for what it's worth. I think we realize now how desperate a lot of people are for their short form content. But they won't go to any of the other apps like Facebook or especially not Instagram. Like I don't know if you've heard about the reputation that IG Reels have, but it's not good. And it really goes to show how a lot of people were willing to not go to IG Reels. And as someone who has seen IG Reels, I do not blame them. Like
I have not seen that. I haven't seen any like. I mean, technically, I can say that I've seen TikToks because a lot of TikToks get reposted as YouTube Shorts. Yeah. So I've seen that, and I've seen YouTube Shorts, but I haven't really seen anything outside of that. I haven't seen Instagram. I haven't seen Facebook. I don't know if like Snapchat has their own like short form kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Now that you mention it, they do.
Because I don't use
like
Snapchat,
every app nowadays has their own form of short form content. Like that's the other thing I could get into, like a little bit of a rant. Like none of these apps are content with just being their own thing anymore. All of them have to operate as the same thing because they see how TikTok is successful. They're like, oh, I want to be just as successful, if not more successful. So let me copy this thing and let me have my app be having everything.
Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly how it works.
It has gotten so bad that even Spotify is starting to do this now, where they're having short form content. Like, they're a music platform. You listen to music. You don't go on there to continue scrolling. Like that's how bad it's gotten. You could call this the TikTok epidemic, where every app just suddenly got infected by the TikTok virus, and now they've just molded into TikTok 2.0, 3.0, 4.0.
That's gonna be the next COVID. It's just gonna be the TikTok virus.
Yeah. So that was a little bit of a rant on that. All right. So for this next topic, Steven, this is a topic that actually I was made aware of today, and I think this situation I'm going to talk about is both incredibly hilarious and again also incredibly sad. And I'll let you decide the parts of it that are hilarious and sad. And I'm going to describe the story to you, and I want your opinion on who is in the right and who is in the wrong. Because right now there's a little bit of a hot divide between the internet right now that's talking about this. So let me paint you the scenario. So you're aware? Are you aware of the app Lyft?
The app what?
Lyft.
Like the Uber clone?
Yeah, the Uber clone.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So there was a Lyft driver who is currently being sued because there was a 500-pound woman who ordered a Lyft car, and the Lyft driver, he was driving a relatively not big car, but kind of a small sedan type car. And the Lyft driver refused to take the 500-pound woman in because he believed that there's not enough car weight capacity on his car to be able to safely transport her to wherever she was trying to go. And the 500-pound woman, who's apparently also a rapper, like a local rapper, that's what all the news stations are talking about. She ended up getting offended by this, so she ended up taking out her phone and started filming the whole ordeal, like showing the Lyft driver being like, "No, man, you can't get into my car. You're too heavy. My car is not going to be able to take that weight." And basically, the Lyft driver was telling her to order another Lyft, and he was trying to tell her to order a XL option, like order a bigger car that would actually accommodate for her weight.
XL option is crazy.
And it's like a real thing that like people have to accommodate for. Because it, like, according to this guy, if she got into his car, the car weight limit would have been like pushed over the max and his car wouldn't be able to drive. And so because of the fact that this woman, she filmed this, she ended up suing him and creating a lawsuit on him. And from what I understand, I think the Lyft driver even got fired because of this. And there are many people who are on opposite sides of this. They're saying that the 500-pound woman was in the right for creating the lawsuit. A lot of people were saying that the Lyft driver was in the right for prioritizing what he believed to be the safest option. And now, with all of this explained, I want to pass it over to you, Stephen. What do you make of this situation?
I mean, I don't really know. On one side of it, like, I don't think that you should judge people by their appearance. Obviously, that's like, you know, that's at least something that I believe in. However, I do also think that, you know, while we do live in a culture that is very easily offended by things like, you know, weight and stuff, and they'll call it like, you know, oh, body shaming or stuff like that.
Yeah, body shaming.
There are certain areas where precautions have to be taken in like a physical sense. In the case of like, you know, like, take for example like an elevator, right? You wouldn't want to put like, you know, a bunch of really heavy people on an elevator because that could potentially be a safety hazard. It's not because we're shaming you for being large. We're trying to protect you because you're large. However, at the same time, I will add that in my experience, and I could be wrong, it's not like I know every single car out there in the entire world, but in my experience, I have never heard of a car that like will just not drive at all if it's over the weight limit. I know some cars do have an actual, like, you know, car capacity for how much they can carry. I don't think that 500 pounds is really gonna be a problem necessarily. Like, it's a lot of weight, yeah, but there are definitely cars out there that can handle that kind of weight. I think that even my car, which is like a really small sedan, it's a Honda Civic so you know, there you go, now you know what kind of car I drive. But I think even that car, like, I'm thinking of someone who is 500 pounds. Like, you gotta think that's big, right? Like, 500 pounds is very, very big. But I think even my car could probably, like, you know, okay, maybe the engine might have to work a little harder to, you know, move that weight, but it could absolutely do it. So, I mean, obviously we don't have, like, you know, enough information to really definitively prove, you know, oh, this guy was lying, his car could have absolutely done it, or, you know, maybe there was some other circumstance that made it so his car actually wouldn't have been able to handle that amount of weight. We don't have enough information to really prove any of that, so it's hard to say whether he was in the right or in the wrong. But my personal opinion is that, like, I think that if the guy was actually, like, you know, genuinely concerned about safety and saying, you know, if you get into the car, we're gonna be over the weight limit. Like, that's not the main thing to look at. Is like, he's not, being offensive. He's not, calling this person fat or saying like, you're too fat, you need to lose weight, stuff like that. He's saying this is
do some jumping jacks and make people drop.
He's telling this person this is a safety concern. The physical mass that you have is causing me to be concerned for the safety of this drive for both me and you. And that's what I think is important, is the fact, like, it's not like a shaming kind of thing. I don't know, that's kind of that's my take on it.
Right. And I pretty much agree with that. Like, I think it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, like, if you look at the video, you look at it, it's like, while he's being as respectful as he can, it is kind of a like awkward situation of just like having to tell someone, hey, look, my car is not going to be able to take your weight. Because like having to tell someone that they're too fat or like too heavy to get into a car, like that's not an easy thing to do. Like that's always going to come across as like insulting. Yeah. But like under the context of like thinking about how to like transport them from wherever they want to go to another, like it's pretty understandable to like look out for your own car. And in the video, he was bringing up the option of ordering a second to order a heavier car that would actually accommodate for her weight, and she'd be able to like reject, like to cancel this. Like it's not like he's saying buy another lift and she had to pay for 2 lifts. No, he's saying that you can cancel the transaction on this lift and then get another lift in order to get into a car that would accommodate her. And the reason why this story stuck out to me is because we've talked about this before. I've shown it off before. I'm myself am not the smallest being in the world. I weigh around 350 pounds. So, I'm not super far off from this 500-pound thing. And I'm trying to, like, imagine myself.
This 500-pound thing.
just the capacity of 500 pounds. I'm not referring to the woman as a thing. I'm not that misogynistic. But I'd say I'm not too terribly far off from that metric. And, if I were to order a lift, when it was in a small car, and they told me that I was too heavy to get into this car, yeah, I would probably be offended, but it would also be one of those other things where I'd be more mad at myself for being this big. I'm like, yeah, I understand, but still, it's kind of disheartening to have to hear that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as for me, and this is not even talking about whether or not she could physically get in there. Because, like, I myself have had that issue of, like, getting into the backseat of someone's car. Although, I will say, in my case, it's because, as someone who is 6'4", I got long legs. And so, having to fit long legs into the backseat of a car, it's not fun, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, no.
On top of
I'm also relatively tall. I don't, probably not 6'4". I mean, Will's still significantly taller than I am, but
right.
I also know, like, that issue to some extent. Just like, small back seats, you get a little cramped back there.
Right. And so it is just another thing of like, could she have like, because even though in the video she like kept on saying that she could fit, we never actually see a video of her attempting to get in. And that's obviously because the Lyft driver was trying to tell her that she couldn't. And so maybe the Lyft driver was just trying to save her. Like, and keep in mind, this is all resulting in a lawsuit being filed against Lyft and against this driver in particular. And in response to this, Lyft, the company, they have, as far as I'm aware, they have fired that guy because of this situation. So, I don't know, does that sound fair to you? Firing him for something like that?
Well, I mean, you have to think about like companies these days are very quick to fire people just for like being involved in anything. It's like, just because she filed that lawsuit, that's already like Lyft will see the lawsuit being filed and just immediately go, okay, yeah, you're gone.
Right.
Because the thing that you also have to realize is that with Lyft, because it's a rideshare company, kind of similar to Uber, the people who do the drives aren't like employees in the traditional sense where like, you work at like a restaurant, for example. It's not like they go into work and like have a schedule and have a manager and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, they're independent contractors.
Yeah, they basically work according to a contract. But because of that, it's a lot easier for Lyft to basically cut people off and just say, revoke their contract and say, we're not going to allow you to provide services for us anymore.
But I guess what I'm asking is, do you think that is, like, I agree that I have no doubt that big companies will be quick to do that. But what do you think about like how fair is that to the guy? Because like if this like lawsuit gets publicized enough, then like other companies will be hesitant to hire him based on this, and it might make it harder for him to like actually get a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and, like make money.
If they're firing him based on the lawsuit, like, that's the reason that they give. They say, hey, you're involved in this lawsuit, so we're going to fire you. That I don't think is fair, because the lawsuit obviously hasn't come to a conclusion yet. There's been no outcome to it. And so I don't think it's fair to fire someone just based on the fact that a lawsuit was filed without, waiting to see what the actual outcome of it is. But they could also be firing him just based on the fact that, like, maybe they saw the video, maybe they just were unhappy about the fact that he told this woman, you can't get in the car because you're too heavy. They may just be, like, unhappy directly about that and just fired him based on that, independent of the lawsuit. I doubt that they actually said, or that anyone has actually said, what reason Lyft gave for firing him, but I would say, like, how fair it is depends on why they did it. I still think, like, they should probably maybe, talk to the guy, try to understand, get more information as to, like, what exactly went on, what the situation was, but, companies are never going to do that. So, is it fair? That's kind of up for debate.
And, like, as for me, I've seen, like, the news clippings of this, and, like, it's honestly super cringeworthy. Just seeing, like, the woman who filed this lawsuit, like, she's literally in, like, news interviews, and she's like, this situation has scarred me. I haven't been able to leave my house because of this.
Now that is just that's overreaction right there. If you are,
and I'm not making that up. Those are actual things she said.
No, I'm just saying, like, okay,
I'm quoting directly.
I'm just trying to think of, like, not even just, like, thinking of, like, the fact that someone would do that, just thinking of the type of person that you'd have to be to, like, oh, you got told that you are, a little bit oversized and that you're going to exceed the weight limit of someone's very small car. And you're going to say, oh, I am scarred because of this, to the point where I can't leave my house. I am scarred to the point where I can't leave my house because someone told me I'm fat.
And that's why a lot of people are taking the driver's side on this, because they're seeing how she's acting. She's playing it up. She is playing it up in order to try to build a stronger case for herself.
And very likely,
all she is trying to get out of this, I'm going to be brutally honest, all she is trying to get is just some more money.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I was going to say very likely what she's doing
and
is
on top of that,
she has seen this as an opportunity. It's like, oh, this guy called me fat. This guy is providing a service to me. Boom, lawsuit. I get money. That's her line of thinking.
And on top of that, she's also trying to get publicity out of this to, like, because, like I said, I briefly mentioned this, but she is a rapper who is, like, in the Detroit area, and no doubt, like, and like her stage name is being pushed out all around. I'm not going to say it in this episode because no free publicity, and also no publicity period from us. I mean, have you seen our view count?
Yeah,
but it's just like I refuse to, like, look into her music career because of this. Like, I refuse to give her that attention. Which is why I'm referring to her in vague terms. It's just 500-pound woman. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's what she, objectively, that's what she is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, you weigh 500 pounds. Like, okay, I'm sorry. You know, that can be fat, that can be not fat, depending on how you want to gauge it. But 500 pounds is the hard number that is listed as your weight. That's just a fact. You just have, you can't say that's offensive or discriminatory because we're just reading a number.
So yeah, overall, I'd say, that it's just one of those cases where you just have to look at it and you're just like, how far can we really push the whole thing of like, inclusivity when things like this, like claiming that people are being fatphobic, like that's a way for people to like weaponize.
Yeah, no, I take issue with the inclusivity argument and people trying to pull this card about like, discrimination based on body size, because like there are certain things that you can be inclusive about, like, gender, skin color, to a certain extent, even sexual orientation, like, people who are gay or any other, I don't even know. There's a lot of them, but
right.
Being inclusive to those people, because a lot of the time that's just like kind of like a mental thing. That's just like a way that certain people think or believe, and like that doesn't really affect their ability to be a person. But when you talk about
right.
like someone's physical size, like that can affect their ability to do things like get in a small car that has a weight limit, or go on an elevator that's near capacity, or like even like amusement park rides, like I'm sure there's probably people out there who like most amusement park rides will have a height when you have to be above a certain height to ride the ride. That's for safety. The reason that's there is for safety. And I'm sure there are people out there who have called that discrimination, saying that they're being discriminated against because they're shorter and not being allowed to ride. No, we're not discriminating against you. We are protecting you. We are making sure that you are able to safely ride this ride. That's why I'm saying, like, when we're talking about someone's physical size or like, any physical condition that they have, that's where it kind of crosses the line over from you're no longer discriminating, you're now just being concerned for that person's safety.
Another thing about it too is just like all this is happening because a lot of people just don't want their feelings to get hurt. That's honestly what it is. Like, it's just a matter of people who don't like people who are bringing up their body size. And like, listen, like, if her weight is attributed to some sort of health thing that's out of her control, that's one thing, right? But if she is that size because of how she eats and because of other factors that are in her control, then I honestly don't think it should be, a thing of like where it's taboo to mention it as like a concern if that was her choice to make. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna act like, the purge to lose weight is an easy road, because like it's not. You gotta change, you gotta break bad habits and such. But when you throw up such a hissy fit over something like this, it's just one of those things where it's like, if it's causing you issues in your day-to-day life, like not even talking about health things, because that's a whole other thing. People bringing up the health risks of being overweight and people are calling that fatphobic. That's a whole other thing too.
Yeah.
But
when you think about like, I have to wonder how many people are taking the side of this woman because of the way that she's reacting and saying like, this has scarred me, I haven't been able to leave my house, stuff like that. Like, think about how this would be different if, this had just been a polite interaction where the guy said, oh, my car has a weight limit, you're gonna, be too heavy for that. And the woman just says, basically, like you said, she just like, maybe she's a little offended, maybe something like that, but she just says, okay.
Right. And it doesn't feel good. Like, it doesn't feel good to have someone tell you that. I'm not gonna act like it's an easy thing to hear, but at the same time, it's just like, it's one of the things where you just gotta be an adult and deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
But I have to think about the fact that, like, if that had been the way it went, and she just said, okay, they reached an understanding, she ordered the larger Uber or Lyft, and, like, the guy canceled, she still only had to pay for one ride, it's fine, everyone's happy, and then, like, maybe she goes and, like, makes a post about it on some social media. I have to wonder how many how many people, how many more or less people would be getting this bent out of shape about it than her just going off on this guy and refusing his offer to resolve the situation, filing a lawsuit, stuff like that. I'm just wondering how many people are taking her side solely because of this reaction that she's putting up.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the end of that topic there. Now, if you can give me a second, I need to look something up for this next particular topic, because this is where your homework comes in, and like,
Yes,
we're gonna be
my
talking
homework.
about this. So all right. So the song that I had you listen to was a song by Foster the People called "Pumped Up Kicks." And before we get into anything, I just want to ask you, what do you think of the song,
Um,
sonically? Just like,
I don't know. I mean, I listened to it. It seems like a pretty standard song. I feel like I've probably heard it at some point before, at, like, playing in, like, a store or something.
right.
Because it sounded a little bit familiar, but I, like, didn't remember where it was from or who it was by or what it was called. But yeah, I mean, I listened to it. I have no idea what the lyrics are saying because I can't understand them. But it's just a guy singing about some stuff. I presume
Right.
that there's some kind of meaning in the words.
Yeah, let's get into that right there. What do you think the song's about, from what you could make out?
I don't know. Pumped up kicks.
Pumped up kicks.
Sounds like
Yeah,
that's what it's
like,
about.
right. And like you mentioned, how you heard, and you believe you've heard it in stores, right?
Yeah, something like that.
All right. All this is to say, I'm going to copy and paste the lyrics, and I want us to go through the lyrics. And instead of listening to the song, we're going to read out the lyrics to the song. And afterwards, you can go back to the song and like match up with these lyrics. These are the words that are actually being said, and we're just gonna have some fun reading these lyrics. And I just want to get your reaction to this, right? So okay, so apparently I can't okay. Okay. Alright, so I got the lyrics here. I'm actually gonna edit them right now to kind of like try to separate the verse from the chorus. I don't want you to read ahead yet. I just want you to follow along. Okay, I guess I can't do that. Alright, that's fine. We're just gonna follow along reading this, and we're gonna talk about it. So you ready, Steven?
Okay, yeah, sure. Let's go.
And this is kind of like our Bohemian Rhapsody analysis video, where we like went through the whole lyrics of that song and decided the meaning of it. This is something similar we're gonna do.
We determined the entire meaning of that song was like a guy being forced against his will to perform for like a band or something.
Yeah,
and then
honestly,
escape.
I love the interpretation we came up with. We basically painted the frontman Freddie Mercury as like being held hostage by his bandmate, and ever since that episode, every time I hear the song, I always think of that interpretation, and I just end up laughing because I mean, based on how the lyrics are formed, you could interpret it that way.
It's all up to interpretation.
But yeah, let's go ahead and read the beginning of this first verse. Robert's got a quick hand. He'll look around the room, but he won't tell you his plan. He's got a rolled cigarette hanging out his mouth. He's a cowboy kid, yeah. He found a 6-shooter gun in his dad's closet, and with a box full of fun things. I don't even know what, but he's coming for you. Yeah, he's coming for you. So, based on these first few lines, what do you think?
So immediately, in the first line, we establish this guy named Robert. And obviously he's got a quick hand, which you can interpret to mean like, he's got like, some good dexterity. He can move things around pretty quickly, stuff like that. Got a cigarette, cowboy kid. You notice there that they specify that he's a kid, but they don't say how old he is. So it's up to interpretation how old he is. Now I don't know when this song was made, but even though the legal age for smoking is 21, there's nothing to suggest that this guy is actually the legal age. So we don't know how old this guy is. He could be like, a 5-year-old for all we know.
5-year-old with a cigarette and having found a gun in his dad's closet.
Furthermore, he found a 6-shooter gun, which is basically a revolver. He found a revolver in his dad's closet, so obviously he lives with his dad, so he's young enough for that. So we can say, like, depending on when the song is made, he probably hasn't gone off to college yet, so we're thinking, like, teenager at most, possibly younger. And a box of fun things, probably ammo, if you want to interpret it that way. And the songwriter says, I don't even know what. So obviously Robert is not the songwriter, and being told from the songwriter's perspective, Robert is some third party. But yeah, and he's coming for you, apparently. So I think what we end up with here is we have Robert, who is clearly a kid. Just because it would be funnier to interpret it this way, I'm gonna say that he's a small child. Probably like
just a little kid, just like, I got good, I'm coming for you.
No, he's smoking a cigarette, apparently somehow.
Yeah, smoking a cigarette, just like,
we won't talk about the logistics of how that would work, but he's smoking a cigarette, and he goes into his dad's closet and he finds a revolver with a box of ammo, and now he's coming for you.
Looking through the closet while cigarette's still in mouth.
Yep.
When you say that, I just imagine the funny thing of like those cigarette commercials where there's someone that's like, I've been a smoker since I was 5 years old. That was when I picked up a pack, and ever since then I've been a smoker. All right, so you believe that the song is from the perspective of someone else observing Robert.
Yes.
Or at the very least is mindful of the actions that he's taking. Alright, so this is the verse. This is when the vocal effects are very robotic, I guess you could say, or like very distorted. But now we get these kind of smoother vocals in. Where this is where the catchy melody that makes it a song you hear while you're in like a clothing store or something. But let's go ahead and sing out this chorus in the way that they do it. All the other kids with the pumped up kicks, you better run, outrun my gun. All the other kids with the pumped up kicks, you better run, faster than my bullet.
Absolutely amazing performance, Oscar worthy, really.
Don't mean Grammy worthy. Grammy is the award for songs.
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't.
I just want to correct you. It's fine. But what do you think of those lyrics? This is the part that gets repeated the most in clothing stores.
Right. So now the song appears to be being told from the point of view, like the songwriter, obviously speaking in first person here, now has a gun, and he is telling all of the other kids that they better run and outrun his gun and outrun his bullet. So I think that since the beginning of the song established that Robert, the person who found the gun in the closet, is not the songwriter, and that the songwriter is speaking of Robert from a third-person perspective, the songwriter, now speaking in a first-person perspective in this chorus, is actually quoting what Robert is saying. And so we have this third party, the songwriter, who doesn't actually appear in the song, who is basically telling a story of Robert. So he's a small child, he goes into his dad's closet, finds a revolver, and now he's chasing around all of these other kids with pumped up kicks and telling them that they better run faster than his gun.
Because as we know, guns can run pretty fast, so
Yeah.
you gotta have some legs to outrun them.
Exactly.
And same applies to bullets too. Again, we're thinking about this from the perspective of this kid being 5 years old.
Yeah.
Like, you can run faster than my gun. I'll give your hands too.
These bullets, they go pretty fast, man. Better run.
And all this, he's telling all of them this while still a cigarette in the mouth.
Yes, obviously. I mean, he's never
So
going
you
to
got
drop
this.
a cigarette.
So you got this. You got this 5-year-old kid who's like. It's the plot. It's said earlier that he's a cowboy kid. So imagine him in a cowboy getup.
Yeah.
With like the cowboy hat and like he's got a revolver. And he's just going up to these other kids with pumped up kicks, which is basically a fancy way to say fancy shoes, like
Yeah.
Nikes, whatever. So so that's the chorus. That gets repeated a lot. So I would like to ask you, as of right now, what do you think about the fact that this song is played in clothing stores? This is just a fun little song, you know, it's not really about anything. It's just a happy-go-lucky song.
Yeah.
Just about kids shooting up other kids.
Yeah, no, absolutely nothing wrong with this. I see absolutely no potential for the minds of our youth to, you know, be getting any ideas from this song. I don't see what the problem is here. Like, you know.
Alright, let's go over to the next verse. This is where it goes back to that kind of vocal effect. So this is kind of back to that songwriter perspective. Dad works a long day. He'd be coming home late. Yeah, he's coming home late. And he's bringing me a surprise. 'Cause dinner's in the kitchen and it's packed and nice. I've waited for a long time. Yeah, the slide of my hand is now a quick pull trigger. I reason with my cigarette. Again, the kid, he's now reasoning with the cigarette.
Yeah, because he still has it, as we established.
Then say, your hair's on fire, you must have lost your wits, yeah? And so let's dissect this second verse right here.
So, okay. So, I find this very funny. The songwriter refers to the father figure referenced in the first part of the song as daddy, which, if being said from, like, you know, quoting this kid, or, you know, being said from the perspective of someone who's talking about a kid, if they're calling their father figure daddy, especially if they're like a cowboy type thing, they probably are quite young. So I think this further reinforces.
So you're saying that he really is 5 years old.
I think this verse right here further reinforces the fact that this kid is 5 years old and just playing with his dad's revolver that he found in the closet.
Like I'm just imagining this 5-year-old after he's like unloaded several rounds up on the street. There's blood bodies everywhere, and then he sees his dad, and he's just like, Daddy!
Yes. No, that is exactly the image I think that this song is trying to put for us here. So he says he's gonna be coming home late. So the dad's gonna be coming home late, and he's bringing the kid a surprise. Ooh, what could the surprise be? The song doesn't actually say what the surprise is, so, you know, you can make all kinds of inferences, but it's a surprise, so maybe we're not supposed to know, you know? But dinner's in the kitchen. That's pretty cool. It's packed in ice, so, you know, it's a frozen dinner, probably going to be heated up on a stove, maybe a microwave if this is a more modern song. You never know. Kid's been waiting for a long time. Sleight of his hand, quick pull trigger means, you know, goes back to the first song. You know, he's got a quick hand. He can pull that trigger real real fast, you know.
He's like,
He's waited for a long time. That means he's been playing with this gun for quite a long time, you know. Untold amounts.
This isn't his first rodeo.
Yeah, untold amounts of kids with pumped up kicks that did not outrun the bullets.
It's like a game. It's like a game where you eliminate the first round, and then it gets to the second round where a bunch of new pumped up kicks kids
Yes.
spawn.
Fresh wave. and then this kid, he reasons with his cigarette. So the cigarette,
Is another cigarette?
Still got the cigarette properly hanging out of the mouth. He's reasoning with it now, which I take to mean like, you know, he's kind of trying to negotiate something with it, or he's trying to explain something with it, you know, because obviously there's nobody else around to talk to because daddy's coming home late. No clue where the mom is. The mom isn't mentioned in this song at all. So with no one else to talk to, with no one else to talk to, this kid reasons with his cigarette instead. I like to think the reasoning here that he's doing is reasoning that, you know, well, he didn't actually kill all those people, right? Because he was just playing around. I mean, he's a 5-year-old, so he's not going to know any different, right?
Yeah.
He says, "Your hair's on fire. You must have lost your wits." Yeah. Now, this could be interpreted as the kid's, you know, hair being on fire. Maybe he caught it on fire with a cigarette, but I don't think so, because the songwriter, speaking from the perspective of the kid Robert in first person, says, "I reason with my cigarette, then say." So the kid is the one saying this to the cigarette, "Your hair's on fire. You must have lost your wits." I think the kid is now saying this to the cigarette, telling the cigarette that its hair is on fire, which would make sense if the cigarette is lit, which it obviously is because he's smoking it. So, yeah, there you go. That's my interpretation.
Here's another way to look at it. You know, the first verse was in third person, saying Robert's got a quick hand, he'll look around the room, but the second verse is now still in first person.
Right.
It's like, I reason with my cigarette. So what if there are multiple kids involved?
Yeah, what if there
multiple
are multiple
cowboy kids?
No, okay. No, this brings up a whole new angle that we could consider. What if Robert is not the songwriter, and the songwriter is like a friend of Robert, and this friend of Robert is over at Robert's house, and he's or even better, the songwriter is Robert's brother, which would explain why the songwriter also refers to the dad.
Wait, no, hold on. Here's another idea. You mentioned there not being a mother. What if the second verse is Robert's mother? The whole daddy thing is just like her calling her husband daddy. You know how
that would be certainly an interesting way to look at it. You know what? We're gonna roll with it. So the person who's writing this song,
this entire family, you can just see with cowboy hat, cigarette in the mouth, gun, and a bunch of dead bodies around them.
No. Okay, I've come up with the perfect explanation. So, the person who's writing this song is Robert's mother. So, in the first verse, she's referring in third person to Robert, her kid, who's playing with dad's gun. And she's saying this because she then elaborates in the second verse that he's bringing home a surprise. He's actually bringing a surprise for his wife, not the kid, because we're speaking in first person now. And that would mean that the mother is actually the one saying that her sleight of hand is a quick pull trigger, and she's reasoning with her cigarette. So what I take this to mean is that the mother is just as fond of playing with the guns as the kid is, and maybe the mother was actually the one who taught Robert to have a quick hand with the gun. And if we continue this, then if we take the chorus, which is also sung in first person, then if this is being said from the perspective of Robert's mother, then Robert's mother is actually the one saying that all of the other kids with their pumped up kicks need to run because she is trying to shoot them all because she likes her kid the best, I guess.
And while Robert is there, so that Robert will learn how to shoot up the kids with the pumped up kicks.
Yeah, so she's training her kid to basically be able to shoot at other kids.
And while we're talking about all this, I sent you the music video. And the music video is just a bunch of guys together just playing music. So, could you think any of those kids are potentially Robert?
Maybe.
Or the
we
mother?
don't really know, but those kids could also be.
Like, what role do they play?
That's a good question. I didn't really pay that much
We
attention
need
to
to
the
discuss
music
this now.
video.
What role do they play? Which one of them is Robert and which one of them is the mother? Or maybe the mother's not in the video. Maybe the mother's the cameraman.
Maybe
The
one of
mother's
them
the
is
mastermind behind all this.
the one who orchestrated it all. Maybe one of them is the father.
She's making the music video. She's disguising the song as a clothing store anthem. And she's pushing it out. Like, just a generic clothing store song so that she is brainwashing everybody else to also get behind the movement of shooting all those pumped up kicks kids.
Yeah, because those kids with their pumped up kicks, they don't deserve those pumped up kicks. They gotta be shot.
And it's even funnier when you play it in like those shoe stores, those stores with the pumped up kicks that are being sold. So
the song is
in.
basically telling everyone in the stores, hey, don't buy those pumped up kicks because Robert's gonna be coming for you.
Or even more funny, someone enters like a Nike store, they're just like normal, and then they hear the song telling them to shoot all the pumped up kids, and they just they just stop being normal, and they enter like a trance of like, and then they see everyone with guns, and so they take out guns and like.
Yes, I do personally.
It's not until the song is over that they like snap out of it, and they're like, "What have I done?
What have I done?" I do believe.
And then the song comes back on again because it's just rotating with another song, like "Perfect" by Ed Sheeran or something.
Yeah,
and it's just like because there's not. Maybe like there's a very small playlist, and so they listen to it again, and they just go outside. It's like, all right, time to find some more pumped up kicks kids to shoot at.
I believe that we have officially found the objectively correct interpretation of this song's lyrics.
Yes, it's just a song about a cowboy family full of people, the mother, the son, and also the dad, all wearing cowboy hats, always having cigarettes in their mouth, and always having guns to shoot at kids with pumped up kicks.
A proper Southern family.
I imagine more of a Western family. Like I'm imagining this whole thing happening
Southern,
in California.
same thing, basically.
Like I'm imagining this happening like in California or something. Or no, even better, what if this whole thing is like from This whole thing is from Texas.
This does sound like a very Texas thing. This is something that people.
This is just a song about an average Texas family.
Yeah, no, this entire song is a meme of like most chill family in Texas.
The title of this episode is just going to be watch out for the Texas family with cowboy hats and cigarettes.
Shooting at all the kids with pumped up kicks.
Or maybe the title of this episode is don't wear pumped up kicks around this Texas family. The reasoning will shock you.
The reasoning will shock you.
And I think with that, that's a good place to end this. I think we had a pretty banger episode.
Oh yeah, you know it's a banger when we are giving our interpretations of song lyrics that are obviously the right ones, and there's no other way that this song should be interpreted. This is obviously what the writer meant when they wrote this song. So,
thank y'all for watching or listening, whichever way you consume podcasts. And as always, please like and subscribe for another episode of To Whom It May Concern. Podcast